Okay, so let's just get right into this because the clock is definitely ticking. Welcome to the deep dive. It is officially Friday, February 20, 2026.
We are exactly 8 days out.
8 days, just over a week until February 28, which is the Netflix premiere of famous singers Need a Hit Song.
The tension is palpable.
Yeah.
I mean, the stakes here are just incredibly high for these artists.
They really are. We watched the top 6 from Sing Again 4 go from literally nameless numbers to household names. They survived the auditions, the battles, all of it.
Right, but now they have to survive the actual music charts.
Which is a completely different beast. You know, you can win a competition show with a really great cover.
Or just one perfectly timed high note.
Exactly. But you cannot build a long-term career without a signature hit song of your own. So we've spent the last few deep dives analyzing the legendary producers they've brought in for this.
We covered the ballad master, Yoon Jung-shin.
We looked at the unique stylist, Zion T.
The rock icon, Kim Jong-won.
And the absolute hitmaker, Hunhoe. But today, the mystery is finally over. The last pieces of the puzzle are here.
The final 2 mystery producers have been revealed. So Mystery A is Code Kunst, which is a massive hip-hop get.
Huge get. But we are actually putting all our focus today on Mystery B, the absolute wild card of the entire lineup. Ka더ga든, which I have to admit, when I first saw that name on the press release, I paused. It sounds like, you know, a landscaping business.
It definitely turns heads. It's actually a pun on his real name, Cha Jung-won.
Oh, right.
Yeah, in Korean, Cha sounds like car, and Jung-won literally means garden. So Ka더ga든.
That is deceptively simple. I love that. Yeah. But punny names aside, why is this specific producer the one that has you thinking this season just got complicated?
Because he is the outlier.
Yeah.
If you look at someone like Yoon Jung-shin, who has decades of traditional hits, Ka더ga든 is entirely different. He's the indie king.
Right. He started out under the name Mason the Soul.
He did. He didn't come up through the polished idol system. But here's the critical thing that casual viewers might completely miss. He's actually a survival show winner himself.
Wait, really? Because I always associate him with that sort of chill coffee shop indie vibe. I don't picture him battling it out under stage lights.
He won a show called The Fan back in 2018. And it wasn't about who could sing the highest or dance the hardest. It was about pure distinctiveness.
Building a fandom from scratch.
Exactly. He went up against some serious, slashy performers, and he won by doing the exact opposite. He focuses on texture over technique.
Let's talk about that texture, because when you listen to his tracks, you don't hear that crisp digital perfection that we usually get in modern K-pop. It feels almost fuzzy.
Fuzzy is a great word for it. It's retro rock meets alternative soul. Think about the difference between a photo taken on a high-definition digital camera versus 35mm film.
The film has grain to it. It has imperfections.
Right, and that grain adds warmth. Ka더ga든 champions this texture-first minimalism. He uses organic instruments, real drums that kind of thud instead of snap.
Heavy, round bass lines.
Actual pianos where you hear the hammers hit the strings.
Yeah.
And then you put his voice on top of it.
Oh, his voice. Reviewers constantly compare his vocal tone to vintage whiskey.
It's husky, rough around the edges, maybe a bit reminiscent of someone like Lehigh, but with that indie rock grit. It's incredibly warm. It sounds like it's been sitting on a vinyl record for 20 years.
I think the best entry point for you listening, and where this gets incredibly relevant for the Netflix show, is his massive OST hit. If you watched Alchemy of Souls, you know this song.
Scars leave beautiful traces.
Yes. I think I cried through half that series, and that song was usually playing when I did.
That track is the thesis statement for Ka더ga든 as a producer.
It's just devastating.
But listen to how he builds it. He thinks like an arranger. It starts out so lonely, so intimate, but by the end it blooms into this massive cinematic orchestral sound.
It perfectly captures that title. It feels like a beautiful star.
Exactly. It's painful, but there is deep comfort in it. And that paradox is what he brings to famous singers need a hit song.
Okay, hold on to that beautiful scar concept, because this is where today's deep dive gets really interesting. We need to pivot to the contestant that all the insiders predict he is destined to pair up with.
We are talking about the Sing Again 4 first runner-up.
Gwyn Dorado.
Yes. And we need to be strictly factual here to clear up some online noise. She was the first runner-up, not the winner.
Right. Someone else took the crown.
But if you look at the score sheets, the numbers Gwyn Dorado put up were terrifying.
Terrifying is the only word for it. She scored a 798 and a 799 out of 800.
I mean, that is a rounding error away from flawless perfection. She is a technical powerhouse. Huge, stadium-filling belts, perfect pitch.
Which creates this fascinating tension. You have her technical perfection meeting his rough, vintage whiskey texture. On paper, they're complete opposites.
Usually, you'd pair a powerhouse like her with Yoon Jung-shin for a huge ballad. Putting her with Ka더가든 is a massive risk.
But I want to introduce a concept that explains why this specific pairing might actually be magic. It's a Filipino word. And given her Filipino heritage, I think this is the key. The word is hugot.
Ah, hugot.
Yes. Now, literally translated, it means to pull out. But culturally, it is so much deeper. It means drawing out this gut-wrenching emotion from deep inside you.
It's that feeling when you hear a song and suddenly you're mourning a breakup you never even went through.
Yes, the art of emotional extraction. And Gwyn Dorado has that hugot factor in spades. She doesn't just hit the high notes, she sells the story.
So you take her hugot storytelling.
And you combine it with his beautiful scar production.
I see exactly where you're going. It's the perfect storm. She doesn't need a polished pop track. She's already proven she's technically perfect.
Right. She needs a vehicle for that emotion. She needs a song that feels lived in, timeless, not just trendy.
And Ka더가든 provides that sophisticated, organic band sound. It elevates her from a competition singer to an artist with real soul.
It sounds so incredibly artistic. But
there's always a but in the music industry.
There is. We are looking at a Netflix show literally called Famous Singers Need a Hit Song. The key word is hit, and we are analyzing the charts in 2026.
This brings us to the Ka더가든 risk factor.
The slow burn.
The slow burn. His songs are like slow-cooked meals. The intros are long. The mood takes time to settle before you ever hear a chorus.
Like his track, My Whole World.
Prime example. That song is massive, but it didn't hit #1 the week it came out. It hit #1 years later because it's featured on the dating show Exchange 4.
It needed a narrative context and literally years to catch fire. But this show doesn't have years. They have days. They release episodes weekly.
They need immediate chart impact. And the average streaming listener today has 0 attention span. If you don't grab them in 60 seconds, they skip.
So how does a slow burn artist win a fast food chart battle?
This is where production strategy, what I call hit architecture, has to step in.
Hit architecture. Break that down for us.
It means keeping the artistic integrity, the vintage instruments, but engineering the structure for 2026. You have to get to the core chorus hook within the first 45 seconds.
But how do you do that without destroying the slow, beautiful buildup?
You use a pre-chorus motif.
Okay, pretend I know nothing about music theory. What is a pre-chorus motif?
It's like a movie trailer. You take a melodic hint, maybe just a guitar riff or a hummed version of the chorus, and you put it right at the very beginning of the song.
So you tease the ear.
Exactly. You tell the listener's brain, hey, something catchy is coming. Do not hit skip.
You know, it's interesting we're talking about hit architecture because Hunot'의 is also on this show.
She is.
And we know from last week's deep dive that she is the absolute master of that radio-ready earworm structure.
Even if she isn't producing this specific track, her influence on the show's overall direction is going to be massive. And Ka더가든 isn't oblivious to this. He won the fan, remember?
Right. He knows how to play the game.
He knows he can't just be purely vibey in a vacuum. He has to adapt.
So the mission is keep the Hugot emotion, keep the beautiful scar aesthetic, but drastically speed up the delivery system.
Make it efficient heartbreak.
Efficient heartbreak. I love that. But we also really need to look at Gwyn Dorado's role in this adaptation because we keep talking about her emotional ballads, but she is so much more versatile than that.
Way more versatile. And that's why she can bridge this gap between indie credibility and pop stardom.
Just look at her track record on Sing Again 4. She performed Light Up, which was produced by Groovy Room.
Top-tier, modern, polished, beat-driven hip-hop and pop. She handled that perfectly.
But then she completely flips the script and covers Tomboy by Hugot.
Which is the defining piece of evidence for this pairing. Hugot is gritty, anti-pop, Korean indie rock.
And she nailed it. She didn't try to make it pretty. She leaned into the grit.
That gives Ka더가든 the green light. He knows he doesn't have to treat her vocal like glass. He can throw a distorted electric guitar at her or a heavy drum beat, and she won't sound like a pop princess trying to be edgy.
She'll sound like a rock star. And then, just as the nuclear option, she covered Whitney Houston's I Have Nothing.
The ultimate belter's anthem.
Which proves that if Ka더가든 decides to do one of those massive orchestral explosions at the end of the song, she has the sheer decibel power to sit on top of it.
She won't get drowned out by the band. You have his vintage tone meeting her modern power.
High risk, high reward.
The highest. If they miss that balance, it's just a sleepy track that nobody streams. But if they hit that sweet spot between the Hugot emotion and the chart hook pacing,
it's not just a hit, it's a classic.
And a classic builds a career.
Which brings us to the finish line of today's deep dive. When you tune in on February 28, watch for that slow burn in real time. Listen to the texture.
Notice if he tries to make you feel something before he makes you hum something.
Because in an industry that demands fast and loud, betting on deep and organic is a wild move.
And Gwyn Dorado is the vessel for that bet.
Before we sign off, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over. We spent all this time talking about how she scored a 7.99. We know she can sing with absolute perfection.
The numbers don't lie.
But maybe the real question isn't about perfection anymore. The question you should be asking is, can Ka더가든 teach her that sometimes a scar is more memorable than perfection?
That is the defining question of the season.
Keep thinking about that as we count down these final 8 days. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep listening.
And keep exploring the music.